project, the Lockheed Martin Joint Readiness Train Vehicle project, is the most important issue on the call.
A special session begins Tuesday. On the agenda, a super project for Camden, Arkansas, as you heard the governor mention there, moving Arkansas's primaries and subsequently its fiscal session, and possibly agency consolidations that could save $10 million over 5 years. Time now to talk politics. Our political roundtable this week. Happy Memorial Day to everybody, by the way, Memorial Day weekend. Michael Cook from Top Business and Politics, KATV's lead capital reporter Janelle Lilley, and Top Business and Politics contributor John Burris, who is wearing his finest this Sunday morning. We appreciate that.
It's a holiday weekend, right? We give him a break.
This is the John Burris we've always known and been ready for.
I almost got it buttoned.
He needs to be on the lake today.
All right. Super project, let's go first. Janelle, I'm coming to you. $87 million bond issue. This is going to put all the cards on the table. And is this a good deal for the state of Arkansas?
It is an easily passed deal for the state of Arkansas. There's not even going to be any contention on this. I mean, they could probably take the vote the minute they walk in, and it would be through the roof. Everyone wants these kind of projects. It's one of those things that you can later on your re-election campaign go back and say, look at all these jobs that I helped bring to Arkansas, and they're the exact jobs that they want to campaign on. They're the good paying, quality, tech jobs. Exactly. Military jobs. I mean, there's no downside if I'm a representative or a senator for voting for this.
Americans for Prosperity quoted in the paper earlier in the week, though, talking about this is not good. This is corporate welfare. And we've heard from the liberal side of things. Max Brantley over the Arkansas Times hates these kind of projects. Not enough to stir it up, though.
You have people on both sides that are going to be against it, but as far as like the people who are actually voting, I don't think so.
Janelle adequately described the politics, and she's exactly right. The politicians, right, wrong, fair or not, love the type of projects that they can brag about and hang a flag on and say we created X number of jobs by doing, Y number of things. It might or might not be a good project, and this one probably is. I mean, there's in a lot of ways this one makes Big River look almost embarrassing with what we did there. Not that that was a bad project even, but just what we're investing here with what we're getting is quite large. Small on the investment, large on the output compared to what we invested in Big River and what we're getting out of that. And that's what people care about.
What's the over/under?
I'd say two quick things. I think it's a great thing for South Arkansas, especially Camden, which could really use an economic shot in the arm. And then the irony of the whole factor is, a lot of people in the state legislature like to say, well, government doesn't create jobs. And then here we're going into an instance where government is going to create jobs. So I think that's an ironic twist of fate. But I think at the end of the day, it's good for South Arkansas and good for Arkansas as a whole.
All right. Also on the agenda is moving the political primaries. I'm going to pull up a quote that Michael Cook wrote in his latest column on topbusiness.net. Quote, if the primary is moved to early March, it means candidates and their volunteers must begin campaigning smack in the middle of the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. Talk about a war on Christmas. Is this a good idea or a bad idea?
This is, what's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results? We tried this in 2008, as you recall, but at that time we had Mike Huckabee and Hillary Clinton running for president. So no presidential candidate came to Arkansas to campaign. Huckabee and Clinton won it big. And then come to 2016, we're in the exact same situation where Huckabee and Clinton, they're going to win Arkansas big, so it means no presidential candidate comes here. If Mike Huckabee wins Arkansas, which he's going to in the primary, it's not going to help his prospects. But more importantly, the problem with this proposal, it's going to make all candidates have to run in the March primary, which means if you're running for justice of the peace, county judge, county sheriff, you're going to have to start door knocking in the middle of Thanksgiving holidays. In the cold dead of winter. It's a ridiculous idea. It's just.
I've campaigned in the dead of winter before.
I remember.
That, I know. So, but what do you think? Are those arguments going to be enough to derail this, or do you think it's an already done deal?
But I don't know that it would be on the call if it wasn't already kind of a done deal. But to just play a little bit of devil's advocate there, there's also the idea that, what's our primary doing now for you? I mean, how many presidential candidates come to Arkansas? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, this argument,
so
but why mess up the entire primary system?
Yeah.
It's unfortunately this cycle our primary is not relevant because we have 2 people from Arkansas running. So don't make a justice of the peace candidate have to go door knocking December 15th because we moved a whole primary for no reason.
When you boil it all down, there's a couple legislators that really care about this, and I think this is an attempt by the governor's office to appease them, not much more. Putting aside whether it's right or wrong, it's just something that a handful of people really care about and think will make a difference. Moving the legislative primaries with the presidential is definitely the right decision. So in a way, you can say the governor's certainly wise to do that, because splitting them is additional money and hurts the state while helping, possibly our presidential candidates.
So let's ponder this prediction. If they move it here in this special session from May to March, by the 2018 election cycle, will we see it moved back to May?
They're going to move it back.
You think they will?
They'll definitely move it. Because what will happen is that the candidates who are running are going to be just ticked off that they had to mess up their entire Christmas holidays messing around with campaign stuff. Traditionally, you get to take December off.
To me, how it flips the fiscal session away from after the primary is probably a large ripple effect of
I'm
this.
going to come to that in a second, so let's stay on just the primaries right now, because I think this is one of the other things, too. You got to raise money during that holiday season too, and I can tell you from working in a special election where the campaigning was in December and January, nobody wanted to give because they're buying Christmas presents for their family or paying off debt.
Everybody's going to be singing "If We Make It Through December."
Yes, I think that's a big factor. It's something
money's tight. People care. It's not a good time to be campaigning or raising money.
It's funny, on Twitter I posted a bet. I'll bet anybody $1,000 Mike Huckabee and Hillary Clinton win the respective Arkansas primaries. No takers. And that's a classic example of why. Let's just leave the primary alone.
I may take that just to make you, just to give you something competitive.
So you can give me $1,000.
We got to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back and talk about moving that fiscal session that John mentioned too. Michael Cook, Janelle Lilley, John Burris, join me at the Political Roundtable right after this break. And welcome back to our Talk Politics Roundtable. I'm joined by John Burris, Janelle Lilley, and Michael Cook. All right, we're talking about the special session and all the things that are on the agenda. I'm going to move to something that John Burris wrote earlier this week on talkbusiness.net about moving the fiscal session. We'll pull up that quote here. It doesn't leave a lot of time for renewal of appropriations that expire every July 1st. If the legislature ever finds itself voting on something contentious, a crunch timeline makes it more complicated. What are you alluding to?
Well, I mean most of what I write. I didn't know you were going to bring that up. Well, so appropriations expire every July 1st. And without the appropriation, that's the spending authority that agencies have to spend the money, the actual dollars that are there. We have fiscal sessions are relatively new. I think we've had 3.
Right.
That's a pretty crunch timeline. When the time comes, and it will come, it's a matter of when the legislature is voting on something contentious, 60 days, that window, 60 to 90 days, I guess, that are there to make that decision, have whatever negotiations you mean, then come back and fix any errors. It's pretty small. If the governor thinks that that's time to do it, then that's, I guess we'll see. But I think you're leaving a very small window there.
Yeah. What are you hearing from legislators on it?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that our sessions are the way they are is built on the farming schedule, the agricultural state that we are, and it was kind of based around that. I don't know. I mean, I've heard from certain people complaining that they hate being here when it's that cold anyways, and you're walking around and it's such a small complaint, but it's kind of something funny that they, toss around when they talk about it. But I think there is the real practical problem that John referred to in that there have been contentious votes in the fiscal session. I mean, who are we kidding? We had one last fiscal session that lasted vote after vote after vote. So if you do run into those, you really do push the risk of not being able to fund an agency. But in some ways, that might also institute a more...
Deadlines help.
Deadlines help, yeah. So that there is that.
Maybe they'll get rid of the private option. Oh, that's already on the agenda there. All right, so what do you think? Would you mind into the argument?
No, I say just leave it as it is. I mean, I think John has a good point in terms of contentiousness and so close to the crunch time. Sometimes you do have deadlines, but then we've seen at times where they've messed up. I remember we had one special session we had to come back and fix one word in a piece of legislation.
Well, yeah, in this special session that begins tomorrow, I guess, There's, corrections for engrossment errors and things like that.
Right.
Those things happen. Putting aside the debate, there are just some things that have to be fixed, and not everything gets done right. It's just a very small window when you're talking April to June 30, and that's a ripple effect of moving that primary forward or backward, I guess, into March. But everything's manageable.
Well,
Nothing's the end of the world.
So the question I have is if they don't move the primary, will the fiscal session stay where it is?
Yeah, I think they will. I don't think they'll move it.
All right.
Yeah.
And I guess it would be all in one bill, to your point, like, one passes or none passes, and it all kind of stays the same.
All right, 60 seconds. State government reorganization, taking, I think, 7 agencies, combine them into 3, about $10 million of savings over the next 5 years. Just takes a little courage, right, to do this?
It was something that when I first read about it and heard about it, it was something that kind of reminded me of what Hutchinson originally said when he was running for governor, which was, he was going to put the hiring freeze on, look for any overlaps, look for anything, and then efficiencies. And so, he's pretty obviously not this specific on it, when he was in the race, in the campaign, but it does seem to be something that he's had his eye on for a very long time, so it doesn't surprise me.
15 seconds, 15 seconds.
Let's give it a whirl. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, it's small, but if you don't get the small things right, you won't get the big things right. That's, I think, pretty true in state government, too. But there is a fine line to walk. There is such a thing as too big. DHS is an example of that, and we're going to see that continue to manifest itself throughout the year.
Wearing jackets can be too big, too, sometimes.
Too small.
Is that too small? All right. John Burris, Janelle Lilley, Michael Cook, thank y'all all for being here. Appreciate you very much. Have a great rest of the weekend. And you have a great rest of the weekend, too. Thank you so much for watching Talk Business and Politics. Have a busy and a productive short week this next week. Keep up with the latest on the special session at talkbusiness.net. Until next time, take care.